Hello, and welcome to the Dom Beck podcast. Tristan DeCrescenzo, also known as DJ Tristan, is today's guest on the podcast. Tristan is a junior at Fairfield University who began DJing as a high schooler in New Jersey. Something he was passionate about has also helped him develop a business that spans over multiple regions with a multitude of clients and functions. From creating a warm-up playlist for an athletic team at Fairfield or DJing an event back in his native Garden State, Tristan is always looking for new opportunities and ways to expand his reach as a DJ. So starting off, what was your inspiration in becoming a DJ in the first place?
So I would answer that with both a past job of mine, and a person who I know. So they kind of go hand in hand. So I still do work for a company called Royal Entertainment Productions in New Jersey. And I started off, this was before COVID, so right when 2020 first started, in January or February, I started working with them as a party motivator. So I was like a dancer. We would do formal events like Sweet 16s and mitzvahs and weddings and stuff. And my job pretty much was to dance with the crowds and hype people up. So it was fun. I mean, I'm a 16-year-old kid at the time. Most of the gigs were Sweet 16s. I'm dancing, having fun with people my age. It was the best job in the world. I'm getting paid to party at these private events. And, then COVID happens, and I really missed out on, the company missed out on a lot of events. And, it sucked because, you're not working and you just get into something. You're like, this is great. And then, that happens and there's no more events. It starts to pick up more, about a year and a half down the line. And I start talking to one of my coworkers. His name is Dylan Dubois. Excuse me, huge inspiration of mine. Oh my God, I need water. There's a frog in my throat. 1 second. Yeah, so Dylan Dubois, great guy. Worked with him at Royal Entertainment. He really was the one who was like, do you love music? And I was like, absolutely. And he's like, I don't see why you don't start to DJ, because, I worked with this company and I knew how to set everything up, but I didn't know how to actually use the equipment. And so I was like, you know what, why don't I try that? And so, he kind of guided me on, what to buy and where to start. And, I bought my own equipment off Amazon, just got super beginner stuff. I would text back and forth with him. He would be like, watch this guy on YouTube, do this, do that. And, when you go to work these events at Royal, listen to how the DJ transitions from one song to the next. And I don't know, I was just really passionate about music, and I really got into it, the more that I started to, use the gear that I bought and, talk with Dylan. And so, Royal was a perfect segue from, working with DJs to becoming one. And, somebody who really helped bridge the gap is that guy Dylan. I'm still in touch with Dylan today. He's a great mentor for me. I credit a lot of, my beginnings with, this discipline to him, for sure.
So most people are really not familiar with maybe the specifics of DJing. So kind of what equipment do you need to kind of function and be successful as a DJ?
Right. So, I mean, nowadays, maybe not so much, but I absolutely started with a laptop. And the reason I say nowadays, maybe not so much, are there are controllers, which is the DJ board, that are standalone. That's the term they use, standalone, where you don't necessarily need a laptop because you're able to just plug in a USB onto the board and it has a screen on it and you could scroll through your music. But I started with a laptop. My board doesn't have a screen. I much rather prefer the laptop. I don't know. I just kind of like having a separate thing for where I could, find my music and then use the board to DJ. But it's all up to preference. But I would say laptop. There's these, they're called controllers. It's, the board, it's got the jog wheels, got all the buttons, it's got all the knobs. It looks like the cockpit of an airplane, but I would say that's pretty essential. And, they range from beginner to intermediate to advanced levels of, difficulty. Their size changes, their format changes, but there's a wide array of ones you could pick out from. So those just kind of plug in together. And I mean, you could use this, you could have a speaker. Some venues are plug and play, where you could just plug in your stuff and you could play on their sound system. So it really depends on what you're trying to do with DJing. For me, I started out with, it was called the DDJ what was it, the DDJ SB3. It was like a little Pioneer. That's the brand, Pioneer board. It was like $200, 250. I think it's discontinued now. They make new ones, but started with that. I had my laptop, simple USB plug, and I got my music from Soundcloud, a streaming service. Now I'm able to download it off of online music pools, but use the streaming service, and that was what I ran with. I had no speakers. I had no poles, no lights, nothing. That came later once I started to realize like I could start doing gigs and like set up my own rig. But yeah, just the laptop, the board, and a dream. The software, I use Serato. You could also use a software called Rekordbox DJ. I use Serato. I think it's better for more private and formal events, which is the majority of what I do. And yeah, it kind of guides you through where you could get your music. You could get it from a couple different streaming services, but if you have it downloaded, it's even easier. You could just drag and drop it onto playlists, and it's formatted super nice, and you could go straight from there. And then as time went on, I got like little monitor speakers for my room because I was going off of like a little Beats pill. Like I was plugging in like with an aux cord to a Beats pill. The quality was horrible, but eventually you save up your money, and you get I got these like little monitor speakers, and eventually a little bit bigger speakers, and then poles for those speakers, and then next thing you know, I was saving up money by doing events using that equipment. But I would say for anyone who wants to get started, definitely watch YouTube videos on like the best starter equipment, because there is so much that I feel it would be a disservice to just say get this one or get that one. There's so much for a bunch of different people's preferences, I guess. And yeah, there's plenty of great videos on what gear to get, because there's plenty of places to start. But yeah, the first step is just saying like I want to do this and going out and doing it. And like I was mentioning, Dylan really helped me be like, you know what, like why not? I got nothing to lose.
Transitioning into college, so why did you decide to go to Fairfield, and what factors led to that decision?
Yeah, so Fairfield for me was an absolute slam dunk, because I looked at a lot of different things, going to I honestly didn't even apply to too many. I applied to I think 5 total. And really what it turned out to be was I was looking for 3 main things. I was looking for location, educational programs, and money, pretty much. So I applied to the 5 schools that I applied to. Lucky enough and blessed enough to have gotten into all 5, so that was really big for me. I was super happy, and obviously Fairfield's one of them. And then, you go through the narrowing process, and I decided on Fairfield actually relatively early. I think I decided that I wanted to go to Fairfield in like December of my senior year, and then, the decision days are like all the way in May. So I had a good stretch of time where I was like super confident. And I think that's just because Fairfield really, like I said, knocked it out of the park with all 3 things I was looking for. So home for me is in New Jersey. So Fairfield is a good 2.5 hours from home. I'm out of state, so I don't feel like I'm still home, but close enough where like I can drive back and forth, or if my parents wanted to come up, it's just a quick 2.5 hour drive. Not only that, but like close to the city, that's good for internships and job opportunities. So the location was perfect, and it's also next to the beach. So I'm a big beach guy coming from the Jersey Shore, so that was always a plus. On top of that, the programs, I wanted to originally go to school for graphic design until I kind of switched my mentality on what I wanted to do for my future. So I switched it to I want to do business as my major, specifically marketing, because through my business, I was like, this marketing thing is fun, because I go out and I try and market myself, and I was like, I really want to learn a lot more about this. So I decided to choose a major of marketing, and then I was like, I could minor in graphic design. Fairfield had a graphic design minor and a great marketing major in their Dolan School of Business, which is super prestigious. So I was like, that's really good. And then the last thing was money. Fairfield, I did get a scholarship from Fairfield, and I was like, it's got great location, it's got great programs for what I'm looking to do, and it's also giving me some money to go there. It was a home run for me, and I was just like, there's no other answer. I visited it I think 2 times, went to the admitted students day, and I was like, this is the one, and never looked back since, and it's the best decision I've ever made.
As a freshman, how did you kind of introduce and implement yourself as a DJ at the school? Obviously, not a lot of people probably knew you coming into the school, so how did you kind of grow your brand as a freshman?
Yeah, absolutely. So from what I remember, it was kind of like a funny story. So I remember committed saying like, oh, I'm going to Fairfield. This is my decision. And you start following people like on Instagram who also say, oh, I'm going to Fairfield, just to, see if you can meet some people online. I ended up meeting like some of my best friends and all that stuff before I even went to school, just through like Instagram and Snapchat and whatnot. But I remember specifically, it was one day in the spring of my senior year, I got a follow from an account called Fairfield County Parties, and they do a bunch of like the events around here. And they just followed my account, and I saw on their account that they follow a bunch of people who say that they're going to, Sacred Heart or Fairfield or Quinnipiac and whatnot. So I was like, oh, they follow everybody, but I was like, they seem to, have almost a little bit of a monopoly over the events that happen in this area, especially for like underclassmen. So I was like, maybe I should just reach out and tell them, I'm a DJ if they ever need any help. I wasn't even expecting a response back, just because they seem to, pretty much have it on lock. They do all these events, 18 plus, 21 plus, all these different things. And I think within a day they responded to me and they were like, oh, like this is one of the reasons we followed you as well. Like, when you get to campus, we could meet up and we could see if we could work something out. And if we ever need a DJ, we could keep you in your back pocket. We look at your account, we see that you do things like this. So I was like, oh my God, this is great. Maybe I'll work for these people here who throw these events. And so, I get to college, get to school, I'm meeting everybody. Obviously, like, you're talking to people. Something that's pretty stand out about me is that this is what I do. So in my room, I remember I had like my controller, my board set up like on my desk. So people would walk in and they'd be like, oh my gosh, what's this? I'd be like, oh, I'm a DJ. Like, it's pretty cool. And we had like my freshman year dorm, we put like a little, what's it called? Like a whiteboard on the back of our door so people in the hallway could see it. And we like wrote like, we have a DJ, come listen to music, whatever. And it was cool. Like, I met a lot of people through that. And I think within days, like, people would come up to me, or I would go up to them and be like, oh, hi, my name's Tristan. And I wouldn't know them, and they'd be like, oh my God, DJ Tristan? And I'm like, how do people know how do people know that I'm a DJ? How do people know who I am? So it was kind of like a surreal moment where it's like, are people like actually like talking about this? Like, is this something that people like are interested in? Because I was just in high school, it wasn't like that. Like, people knew me, but I wasn't, the most popular kid. Like, they knew who I was, and maybe some people knew I was a DJ, maybe some people didn't. Maybe people knew and then forgot. Like, it wasn't such a huge deal. And then college, I guess it's just a different thing. They're like, oh, it's DJ Tristan, it's DJ Tristan. And I've just never been called DJ Tristan. I've always just been Tristan. So I was like, this is definitely interesting. And, people would come to my dorm room, I'd play music, and, they would ask questions about the board. Yeah, I guess it's pretty, interesting. And I would show them like, oh, this is this. And it was great because that's how I, made a lot of great friends who I still even have today. Everybody was just kind of interested in the whole DJ thing. And, I don't gatekeep anything. I love to show them. If somebody said that they wanted to start DJing, I'd be like, absolutely. I could send you music. I could come to my room and I could show you how to work the board, all that stuff. So it was just really great. And then I want to say like the first week, I think it was like the first week or maybe the second week, Fairfield County Parties reached out to me. They were like, oh, we're doing this bar crawl in New Haven. Like, we needed another DJ. And I was like, oh my God, I'm already going to get my first gig. And so I did that event for them, and then they just kind of kept rolling. I played at this place in New Haven called Vibes on Orange for a while. I'm not even sure if it's still open, but I played there for a while. And then in the spring of my freshman year, I was playing in New Haven, in Bridgeport, and in all these different spots. They would host these events, and they would just call me up. We need a DJ? Sure, why not? I'm there. I'll come play. So I think that definitely, introduced me to all those events, especially around here. They were kind of that outlet. And then in terms of on campus, like whatever, I would just kind of play in my room and people will walk in and out. I'd have like my little monitor speakers on my table, just showing people that. And, some of these people, some of these kids who I went to school with would also go to these Fairfield County Parties events, and they would see me playing. So it really ended up working out pretty well, where I was kind of able to implement myself pretty fast in like the first month or two, where, it was kind of known that like Tristan is a DJ, and like Tristan goes to Fairfield, and Tristan's a freshman, and he, lives over here, and he does these events, and if there's going to be an event, he'll post it on his story. I would used to post like flyers or whatever on my Instagram or Snapchat story and get a bunch of like slide ups and screenshots, just people asking about it. So it was good. And then, following that, in the couple months that came after, in November, our new arena opened up, the Leo D. Mahoney Arena on campus, and they ended up looking for a DJ for that. And I had a connection through the women's basketball team because I'm a scout guy. I'm on the practice team for the women's basketball team. And, the coach knew, the head of operations at the arena, who knew that they were looking for somebody to play music. And they were like, oh, well, there's a DJ on our scout team. And so I got into playing music at the arena. And so, pretty soon it got to be like, not only is he an off-campus DJ, but now he DJs on campus. And then later down the road in my freshman year, certain clubs and organizations would reach out to me. Like I remember I did an event for Relay for Life. It's a fundraiser event that we have at our school. Similarly, we did Stagathon. It's a very similar thing. And they just want music. And they call me, oh, can you come bring your speakers, play music? Yeah, absolutely. I come, I bring all the speakers, I play. And it was good. So I really kind of put myself in a position where, like I said, not only off campus can I be called to play, at a bar or a club and whatnot, but on campus, clubs and organizations could reach out to me. I'm in the arena for games. So I kind of had a good, I would say a good portfolio of DJing things I was doing within my first year, and just super incredibly grateful and blessed for everybody who was able to make all that happen, because I understand that it's a lot, and it's a lot that I got involved in really quick. And one of my biggest flaws is I have a hard time saying no. I just always say yes to things. I love taking all these opportunities, even if I bite off way more than I can chew. It's just something about me, and I was able to make it work, and everybody involved had been super great.
So when did you begin as the in-house DJ at the arena for events, and which moments have been the most memorable?
Yeah, so that was November of my freshman year. Their games started either late November 2022 or early December 2022. And just even playing in the arena, every game is surreal. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm in a courtside position. We have the MC to my right, and sometimes we have some in-house helpers and like arena interns to my left. And I'm sitting courtside. It's like perfect view. I'm a big basketball guy. Play on the practice squad. I played it in high school. Love basketball, so it's like I'm sitting courtside at these basketball games. We have an MC who, like I said, sits to my right. Her name is Casey. She's phenomenal. She's great. She's like a big sister to me. So we have a lot of fun even here, just sitting here and talking. And, the games are great to watch. And I would say the best things over the last couple of years have just been like, we do a lot of cool themes. Like, like I was mentioning to you before the show, we did like a Taylor Swift theme last year. We just did a Space Jam Michael Jordan theme. And we've just done a lot of really cool things, and even halftime shows. We get like pretty cool people to come out. We had the frisbee dogs, some guy throwing frisbees, and there's dogs flying through the air catching frisbees. It's just always a good time, and I don't even look at it as a job. Do you know what I mean? I go and I watch basketball and I play music, during halftime and timeouts, to just elevate the in-house experience. But it doesn't feel like work to me. I love it so much, and every game is such a good time, and I get to watch my school take on other teams in the MAC, and it's even better to watch the women's team because I practice with them, and I'm able to see kind of what the coaches are saying in practice actually be happening in the game. I'm like, oh, I remember they were talking about number 2 or whatever. But yeah, I would say honestly every game is a blessing, and it's definitely like one of the best, if not the best thing I do at school.
So how's being a practice player on the women's team, and kind of how's that experience been like?
Yeah, so once again, probably another one of the best things I do at school or have ever done. So I played in high school. Doesn't mean I was very good in high school. I kept the bench nice and toasty, if you know what I mean. But I get to school, and getting on the practice squad was another funny story. It was September of my freshman year, kind of around the time, like I said, where everything started like pile on, where I start like DJing so fast like I didn't think I would, and people start to be calling me DJ Tristan instead of Tristan. It was just such a change in pace for me. And I'm playing basketball outside by myself, got my AirPods in, whatever, shooting around. And I'm about to leave, and some guy is approaching me, and I got my AirPods in, I can't hear. And he's walking up to me, and he was like, oh, hey, he's like waving me down. And I'm like, is this guy talking to me? So I take my AirPod out, I'm like looking around. I'm like, me? And he's like, yeah, come here. So I go up to him, and he was like, oh, my name's Eric Johnson. I'm a assistant head coach for the women's basketball team. I was watching you play over here, and you seem pretty good. And I was like, I appreciate it, but I'm a guy. Because he said women's basketball. Yeah. I was confused. I was like, oh, I'm about to be a walk-on for the women's basketball team. And then he was like, no. He was hysterical laughing. He was like, no, we're we got a new coaching staff, and we're looking for practice players. And I had no idea what that entails. And he pretty much explained, he said that, there's a group of guys, some of them are on the club team. I'm not on the club team, but he's like, some of them are on the club team. Some of them are just people who love basketball. They come to the practices when they can, and they help, scrimmage against the women to give us different looks so that the girls don't continuously just keep playing against each other. They have we're like a separate team who comes into practice, and we play against them. And I was like, that sounds fun. Like, that'll keep me in shape, because Lord knows I'm going to get to college and just completely lose all shape that I was in because I'm not on, like, the actual team anymore. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So he put me in contact with another one of their coaches, Coach Blake, and, fill out some health forms. And, I want to say within, like, 2-3 weeks, I'm at practice. And, it was a small scout squad back then. Now it's definitely a lot bigger. I think we have, like, 12 guys now. All great guys, love hooping with them, and the girls are great. I know a lot of the girls very well now, since I've been doing it since my freshman year. I'm a junior now, and that experience has been great. I mean, I literally go to practice as much as I can. If I could go 5 days a week, I go 5 days a week. If I could go only 2 days a week, I only go 2 days a week. But I go as much as I can because it's super fun. 2.5 hour practices, keeps me in shape, like I said, and it's basketball. It's fun. It takes my mind off of all the schoolwork I got to do or anything else I got to do. And it's just great opportunities. It's one of my favorite things to do. I just love basketball, so it's great to be a part of a team like that. Even though maybe I'm not playing in the games, it's just great to go to these practices and really compete against a pretty good team.
Switching to another topic, so how was opening for Metro booming at Fairfield U's concert in the spring of 2023, and explain how that all went down leading up to the event?
Yeah, that was special. Probably the biggest gig I've done, and probably will forever be one of the most memorable gigs I've ever done. It was phenomenal. I mean, the lead up, the actual event, and even afterwards, everything was fantastic. And so, I want to shout out FUSA, which is Fairfield University Student Association. I worked with them to actually do this gig. Without them, it's not possible. I said it once and I'll say it again. Like, I could be the greatest DJ in the world, and a gig like that's never a guarantee. So they really helped me land that. And, we had a school-sponsored concert. We usually do every year. And, it was happening in the spring. I'm a freshman. Everybody's super excited. Oh, we're going to get to see, an artist perform. And, they announce it one day in the spring. Oh, it's going to be Metro booming. It's going to be at the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater. And, everybody's excited because a lot of people, like hip-hop and rap and all the music he produces. So I was like, this is going to be great. And one of my first thoughts was like, I wonder who's opening for him, because I guess it's just where my mind goes. And I remember reaching out to FUSA, and I was like, listen, I don't know, how this operation works, because at the time I was not part of FUSA, so I was like, I don't know how the operation works. I'm a freshman, I'm new here, but I'm a DJ, and like if you need help with music, maybe we could collaborate. They responded, I want to say in like maybe a week or two. We had a couple meetings about it, and they seemed all on board because they were like, not only does the amphitheater need or want a student opener because it's a school-sponsored concert, but like we think it would be great for the school. And I was just like, wow, I'm in. Like, there's absolutely no chance of saying no to this. So, they put me in contact with Metro's like manager. it was like somebody who, you know, worked with the emails back and forth with me. I was talking to some guy from Live Nation as well who was hosting the concert, and you know, just about like where to show up. We had to go like around the back, and like we show up, and I went with my videographer, and we like went around the back, and there was this, you know, lady here. Oh, you can't park here, and we were like, oh, you know, I'm DJing tonight. I'm opening here, and then she was like, no, you're not, and I was like, yeah, I am. I didn't know what to say, so like it was like kind of scary because like you're clearly going away. You're not supposed to go, but because it's only for like the artists, but like that's where we were told to go. So it was scary, but you know, we got through obviously, and yeah. So I had prepared a set to play, and you know, it was a huge teaching point for me because most of it was downloaded tracks, but some of it was streamed tracks, which means you need a Wi-Fi connection for it. And so I get there, you know, I set everything up, I'm ready to go, I'm fired up. I kept it mostly a secret. I didn't really tell people I was doing it, so people start to realize day of, like, oh, Tristan's not around, like, and I put some on my Snapchat story, like, saying, like, oh, I'm not doing it, and then, like, 2 seconds later, I was like, I am doing it. Yeah, I was just playing with people, and then, I remember I set everything up, and I asked the guy for the Wi-Fi password. I was like, you know, some of my music needs the Wi-Fi, and he's like, oh, it'll be a little spotty when people come. I was like, shouldn't be too big of a deal. Like I've worked with some of these tracks before on spotty Wi-Fi, and then people came, and it just completely died on me. I lost Wi-Fi connection. This is, you know, like a lot of people will look at it and be like, oh, like it was a great set, it was fun, you did fine, you did good, whatever. But I look back on it, I'm like, oh, like not that it sucked, but like, oh, it sucked that I didn't have all the music I wanted because the Wi-Fi kind of went out on me. But like I said, that's on me. It's definitely a learning point to make sure all the music is downloaded. I thought I'd be fine with the Wi-Fi because it's like, oh, it's an amphitheater, but it definitely did get spotty. And so I was supposed to play about, I think, an hour and 15. I ended up playing for like 2 hours, which was great. And then eventually, you know, they called me off. They were like, okay, next song is last song. I played my favorite song ever, Locked Out of Heaven, Bruno Mars, as my final song. And then helped them move all my stuff out. I'm backstage. I remember the first thing I did was I called my dad. I was like, Dad, I just got off stage. And he's like, oh, that's great. How was it? And I remember I told him, I was like, oh, it was horrible. Because I was upset that I wasn't able to play everything that I had prepared. And I was like, you know, I had to go on the fly for like 40 minutes because I was only supposed to play this amount, and then it went longer, and I didn't have all the music that I had, and, you know, I was just trying to play on the fly, and I didn't necessarily have all of it prepared, and I don't know, I was just in my head, and he was like, I'm sure you did fine, I'm sure nobody noticed, and, you know, I did later learn, nobody noticed, nobody really cared, to be honest, that, like, it went a little off script, you know, nobody even knew that I even had a script, not that I really did have a script, but, like, you know, nobody really knew that I had all these things prepared, and, you know, I think I was just thinking too much about it, but the experience was great. And then, you know, I met Metro. I got a picture and an autograph with him. I talked with him for like 5-10 minutes backstage. He wasn't in any rush to get out there. He was just kind of like chilling in the back. So we talked a little bit. He was giving me some nice compliments, which was great. Yeah, then he went out and performed. I was able to watch him from like backstage, and you know, the more time goes on, the more like I look back on it. You know, originally I was like, oh, I wish I could have played everything that I had prepared, and you know, it was definitely a little nerve-wracking up there because I wasn't necessarily nervous to play in front of all those people. It was more of like, okay, I'm like flying blind now that like I don't have everything, but that's just part of the job description of being a DJ. You kind of got to be on your toes all the time because you just have to expect things to go wrong. It's technology. It's always gonna fall short. Yeah, the more time that goes on, the more I look back at it, the more I realize like it really was not the end of the world, and it really did kind of change my life, and it was such a great gig, and I look forward to doing more gigs like that because like that's huge. Like I understand that it's huge, and I'm very humbled to have done something like that, and yeah, just super proud of myself, super thankful for, you know, Fusa for helping set that up, and yeah, I've done a couple concerts since then with Fusa for our school, opening for 2 Chainz and Cali, and recently I opened for Fits in the Tantrums and Zara Larson and stuff like that. So hopefully I can continue to do gigs like that in the future because that's always fun, you know, performing for these big name artists. And although I'm just an opener, like I just love being on that kind of stage.
And how were those experiences compared to the first one? Like those other two concerts compared to the Metro Boomin concert?
They were a little bit different in the sense that the Metro Boomin concert took place at the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater, which was off campus. The 2 Chainz and Zara Larsson concert both took place on campus in the new arena. So it was a little bit of a different vibe because, an enclosed space, the amphitheater in Hartford is like an open area outside. It's a lot bigger. It's got like a huge pit. It's got like these stands in the back. Yeah, just definitely a different type of feel, being indoors versus outdoors, and a little bit of a smaller space versus a little bit of a bigger space. Regardless, all of them were fantastic. I mean, I wasn't able to meet Two Chainz or Zara Larsson like I was able to meet Metro, but still great experiences. Still was able to, say I opened for them, and still was able to, watch them perform. All great performers. So, all really good experiences. But I would say the Metro one definitely stands out just because it was that type of more of a staged venue rather than like in the own basketball arena that I guess I'm so used to with the games. Still a great venue, but the Hartford Amphitheater is on a bigger scale, and I think Metro is probably the biggest named one out of all of them, with probably Zara Larsson in a close second. But yeah, all great experiences. Once again, thanks to FUSA, who I've worked closely with them to make those a reality.
How have your music choices affected your work as a whole?
Like, playing, or just in general, like
DJing, like the music that you like, how has that affected like your work as a DJ?
Right, yeah. So I would say the probably the biggest responsibility is the word. The biggest responsibility for a DJ is to not play the music that you individually want. And I feel like that is kind of something a lot of beginner DJs, like a kind of a hole that they fall into, because it's so easy to play what you like, what you want, what's on your playlist, because you think it's great, and while it might be great music, it's not necessarily what you're being, hired or paid to do. And it's all about reading the room and reading the crowd. And there are times I have to play. There are a lot of songs that like are always crowd hits that people love that like I might not love, but I know, to turn up the crowd and to get people out on the dance floor, I have to play them. And although I'm sitting there like, I don't like this song,
or here we go again, or something like that.
Yeah, it's important. And so reading the room, reading the crowd is definitely the most important thing. And my music taste, I'm into a lot of I want to say like I like pop music. Honestly, I know it sounds very generic. I like pop. I like this is very niche. I like Afro house. It's like I don't know if you're familiar. It's like very chilled house. It's like a little bit down tempo from regular house. EDM is good, but I don't like saying I like EDM because I feel like I sound like everybody when I say EDM. But like I like very euphoric EDM, like like old time type stuff, like Martin Garrix, Cash, all that stuff. I really into them back in like 2015, 2016, that type of EDM that really brings me back. That it evokes emotion. The music like that is really what I enjoy. And I think while a decent amount of the music that I enjoy, I'm also able to play in settings because I know other people enjoy. Like I mentioned, there's definitely some where I don't enjoy that I have to play, or especially if I get song requests that maybe have been requested over and over, where I know a crowd would like this, I'll play that, whether I'm familiar with it or not. So I would say it didn't affect it negatively, because I would say I kind of went into DJing. Because, one of the biggest reasons I went into DJing is because I love music. I love all types of music, right? So I had a pretty good background on all types of music, and it's only grown since then. But, yeah, it really helped me, give me a good starting point, especially, becoming a DJ in, the formal events, the private background. That really helped me because, the private events is really where it's, like, more formatted, where, you play... top 40s, or you play maybe it's a Spanish music only party or a Latin party, stuff like that. So it really gives you a good balance. Whereas if you were in like you started DJing like at bars or clubs before you did private events, maybe you're more niched down, or I wouldn't say rather niche down, but more like oh, I'm just gonna play genre to genre to genre to genre and not really have a structure. I feel like I came from more of a structured part, so that like now when I play at bars and clubs, I'm able to kind of like loosen that structure and hit a bunch of different genres. And I feel as though it's a lot easier for me. But yeah, the reading the room and the music selection is the biggest thing. And for anybody who wants to be a DJ, I would say just familiarize yourself with music you don't like. You know, if you know it's a crowd pleaser, familiarize yourself with it. Know the tempo, know the words, know everything, because it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you mix. It's gonna help you realize when's the right time to mix it in. It's gonna help you realize when's the right time to play it. When not to play it as well is just as important. So, like I said, it's definitely helped me as a good launching pad to DJing. But it's important that I remember with each gig that just because I like it doesn't mean who I'm playing for is going to like it. So that's the most important thing.
How do you prepare for a sporting event compared to a party or wedding? Because obviously those are kind of two different things.
Absolutely. So the weddings and the parties they could be more niche down. They could say we want only top 40, or we want only hip hop, or they want a specific genre. The arena, like I said, if we do themes, like we did the Space Jam theme, obviously the Space Jam theme song is part of the set list for that game. We just had a Pride night as well, so it's like, I try to play music from artists who have come out, or producers who have also come out. So just kind of conforming with the theme for the arena games is kind of what I look to do. If there's not necessarily a theme, it's just kind of like I try and play songs, one of two things: songs that everybody knows, so it's like people in the crowd, there's a bunch of different ages and people. I try and play songs everybody knows, just so people are like, it could get them to be like, oh, I know this song, maybe dance, maybe sing. When they put people up on the Jumbotron, there's people dancing, singing, whatever. Either that, or songs that you'd hear, like if you go to Yankee Stadium, you hear like Tremor, you hear Party Till We Die, you hear all that Current Craft, because those are like hype songs that, people in between batters or in between innings, people want to get up on their feet and cheer. So I that's kind of how I put those two things. And then for a wedding, that is usually we'll set up like a playlist where the people, either getting married, or if it's any sort of private event, if it's a birthday party, the person whose party it is will, specify what genres or any specific songs they want me to play, any specific songs they don't want me to play. We've had weddings say like absolutely no line dances, no Cotton Eye Joe, no Cupid Shuffle, none of that. So those definitely are more tailored towards what the client wants, whereas in the arena, it's more tailored towards, songs that people know, songs that will hype people up, or to go with a specific theme. And then even just things like bars, where it's a little less formal than a wedding or less formal than the arena. That's where, like I was kind of saying, that's where you kind of have some flexibility, saying like, okay, now I could kind of play what I think the crowd wants, rather than I'm playing what I know the crowd wants because they gave me a list. You don't have a list when you play at a bar, unless it's a list of songs the venue doesn't want you to play, or if you're opening, you can't play what like the headliner is going to play. So there's a bunch of different things to consider, but they are definitely different in their own ways, and that's why the biggest thing, just knowing your music, knowing what you have to play, that's in your playlist, what's available to you, and just having a large music knowledge, I guess, on all different types of genres and tempos really helps you. It really makes it easier for you to be like, no matter what setting I'm in, I know I'm going to be able to pull from this, and this, and I know I'll be able to fit the vibe.
And overall, how do you balance and manage your time with all the commitments that you have?
I love this question because I'm a big believer in the Reminders app on your phone. If you have an iPhone, I'm not sure if it's on Android, but if you have an iPhone, there's the Reminders app. That's what I do. Everything that comes up, I put into my Reminders app, and I set, you can set the date and the time, and I throw everything in my Reminders app, and I usually have it remind me days in advance, and I'm a big believer in it. I highly recommend it. If you got a lot going on, use the Reminders app. Even the calendar app on your phone, you can put stuff in the calendar, and you can look at it on like a bigger scale, see like how all the days kind of fall through. But that's kind of how I keep myself organized, because there has to be some level of organization, because I do have a lot of commitments and there is a lot going on, a lot of moving parts, a lot of happening at the same time. But I just use my phone and my laptop to kind of keep things in the calendar, and then the reminders set in a way where I'm able to remember to do things, but also do things in a timely manner. And then, school always comes first as well. I think that's important to mention. My dad always said, like, you could DJ as much as you want at school. You could play basketball as much as you want at school. My dad says this more, but it's both my parents. Obviously, they want school to come first, and 100%. Like, if I'm failing in school, I can't do extracurricular things. But school will always come first, and I usually tend to do school things first. I tend to, try and bang out my homework first before I make a mix to post on SoundCloud, or I go out to DJ, or I go out to hang out with my friends, or whatever the case may be. I try and get my school stuff done first. I always make sure I leave room for studying if I know I have a lot of schoolwork. Although it's hard for me, I will say no to things, because obviously school comes first, and I'm lucky enough to have been excelling in school in a very humble way. Of course, I put a lot of pride and work into my schoolwork and my work ethic, specifically for my classes. But I think that's just the type of person I am as well. Just I put 100% into everything, and I've said it before on another podcast, and I'll say it here because it's important. Like, I don't divvy up my effort based on how many things I have going on. I don't say, like, I'll give 25% here, 25% here, 25% here, and 25% here. I say, like, okay, I'm going to focus on one thing. My dad always says one thing at a time. 100% on one thing, boom, get it done. 100% on the next thing, boom, get it done. So I could keep putting my full self in everything that I have, just because I find if you kind of divide your attention or divide yourself into things, it's not fair that you're not giving the attention to, let's say, your friends or your girlfriend or your family or DJing. Like, I don't want to go out and give 25% and perform poorly if, I'm getting paid to perform somewhere. So I try and make sure I have everything in a specific way or in a specific order, so that I'm able to knock it out, and keep putting 100% of myself into everything, so that I'm able to fully be present and not feel like I'm dividing myself.
And then looking into the future, what events would you like to DJ in the future?
Oof, too many. I mean, I feel like I've dipped my foot in a lot of different areas already, playing in an arena and opening for an artist, and then playing at a bar, and playing at something like a wedding or a Sweet 16 or a mitzvah, or just even a birthday party. I feel like I've done a lot of different things. But for the future, definitely, I mean, the dream, of course, is world touring DJ. Of course, that's the dream. How realistic it is, I don't want to say it's unrealistic, but I know it's not probable. But that being said, I'm gonna DJ forever. Whether it's I play once a week at, as a resident DJ at like a super small town bar, or whether that's my career and I make a living and provide for my family and my one day hopefully kids, by DJing, like, so be it. I'm still exploring, like, if that could be a career. I understand, like, you have to make a certain threshold of money. I don't do it for the money, but at some point it's like, if I'm gonna devote everything to this, you have to be making a good income with it. So I'm still exploring different areas where it's like, maybe I could do this as a career. If not, it'll always be a side thing. I could have my main career in DJ on the side. But looking ahead, I want to obviously continue posting mixes to SoundCloud. I post a lot of mixes to my SoundCloud for universities and teams across the U.S. and Canada and whatnot. So that's always just a fun thing to do. Post those on SoundCloud for teams and schools, and I'll probably forever record and post like that. But in terms of live performance, I mean, the bigger the stage is, the better. I hope to outside of school and outside of FUSA also be able to open for artists on my own. Maybe during these years at university, be able to put together like a portfolio saying, like, I opened for this person, and now I go out into the real world and say, like, here's my DJ portfolio. Like, if you need an opener, this is what I've done, this is my experience. And maybe try and get on stages like that, similar to that, whether it be opener or as an individual performer, like come see DJ Tristan rather than come see performer XYZ with opener DJ Tristan. Whether it be either of those, that's still big for me, and I would still love that. but yeah, the bar scene and the club scene is always fun because you get to play music for the people that are like around my age now. So for the next couple of years, that'll be fun because those will be the age groups that'll be there. And yeah, I mean, I'll forever probably do the private events as well, like weddings and all that. That's where the real I guess prestige comes from because anybody could play at a bar. Not anybody, but it's a lot easier to play at a bar just because it's less structured, kind of like I was saying. But the formal stuff is really where that prestige and that formality and that I guess stricter schedule kind of comes into play, and it really helps you. I don't know, just kind of be more structured in your take on DJing. But yeah, I'd love to continue in all aspects into the future. But I guess an end goal dream would be be able to produce my own music and play as an individual performer. But at the end of the day, I don't want to say one answer or another for this because wherever DJ takes me, I know it'll be great because it's taken me on so many different turns that I never expected, even just in the last couple of years. So wherever it takes me, I'll be grateful and humbled and super blessed to do anything that has to do with music.
And then lastly, what are your career plans moving forward? Do you want to stay in marketing, or if there was like a DJ opportunity full time, would you like to pursue that as well?
Yeah, so the DJ opportunity full time, that would be ideal because I think that ends up combining, that would probably end up combining, business skills and life skills as well as just, my whole skills in music as well. That would be ideal, especially if I'm able to stay and make a living, and I'm sure travel might be part of it, but like if I'm able to provide for my family and be with people and still remain with my friends and all that, that would be fantastic. But if that's not the case, because I understand it's such a niche thing, I would love to stay in marketing. I had a marketing internship last summer. I have one coming up this summer. I really love marketing. I love social media, stuff like that. Obviously, that's part of my company too. I do my own marketing, my own social media, stuff like that. So I'm really interested in that. And so, I kind of see myself in right now it's hard to predict, but I kind of see myself either one way, have a career in marketing, always DJing on the side, or if I'm able to find a way to make DJing a career where, I get similar benefits and I get to make a living and be able to provide, that I wouldn't turn down that option as well. But wherever I go in my life, I know that just because of the type of person I am, I'll do what I love because I've realized through DJing that like it's work, but it doesn't feel like work for me, and that's what I guess my end goal in life is to really feel, whether it's through DJing or something else. Like I want to work where it doesn't feel like work. And I know that is very, very much a privilege and not everybody feels like that. Probably there's a small percentage of people who do feel like that, but that is something that I want to work towards, DJ related or not, is just to really be comfortable and enjoy my time with whatever I end up doing.
Thank you for watching another edition of the Dom Vec podcast. I really appreciate Tristan taking time out of his day to come on the podcast and just speak about his career and I guess overall life on a more personal level. Like, comment, and subscribe on this podcast as well as the others posted on my channel. And then lastly, just have a great day. See you next time on the Dom Vec podcast.